Hello, it's Mediums in Action time again. Again, it's with me, Martin Lick Wilson, and my good friend, and as I always say, an expert medium, and he really is, and that's Ian Doherty.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the intro, Martin. And likewise, it's nice to be here recording another podcast and reach as many people as we can. So thank you for your listening and please share. Thank you.
Totally agree. It's been a really good week with the course. We're now in, I can never say it, UAE, aren't we? We're now
United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, we've got our first student there, and we've just hit today 140 students, which is just mind-blowing for me.
It is. It is. It's been so quick though, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I still can't believe it was only the end of March when we launched it. So it's less than sort of 3 months. But
it's going really well, and in 18 different countries now.
It's just absolutely amazing, and thank you everybody there for doing that. And today we're going to change it a bit, so we're not actually going to talk about mediumship. Well, there might be a little smattering of mediumship here and there, but what we want to talk about today is divination. Now, if you don't know what divination is, get off this podcast and go on the internet, because if you're a medium, you should really know what divination is, and that's, I suppose, how we can put it, is predicting the future, or as I like to say, it's kind of predicting the most possible outcomes. So when I ever do a divination, I always tell people it looks a bit like a family tree, or maybe a fan or like a flow chart almost, in that I'm going to tell you this is what's going to happen. But at any time you could say, right, I'm going to completely change that, and I'm going to completely, you can always change your life. But these are the most possible outcomes. That's what I always say to people. And
it's a good way of looking at it.
Now, with you, Ian, obviously, I've known you as a medium, really, and there's been a number of times where we've worked together, let's say on a psychic supper or something, and you've used tarot cards. So what came first for you? Did you do tarot cards before you were a medium, or when you were a medium, did you decide, right, I'm going to pick up some tarot cards and see how I get on with it?
I was always mediumship through and through, but I hadn't, by the time I started using the oracle cards, I hadn't necessarily gone to a spiritual church and worked on my mediumship. So you could say really that tarot was the first sort of venturing out, and I just found that I was able to be doing them, where as in I thought myself, well, I'm sure this what I'm feeling with the card. I thought, is it right? And I found, because the analytical side in me always wanted to know why, and I found I was having a good level of success even at my early stages. I never used the book telling you the Two of Cups is this, the Three of Cups is so and so. I just went by what I felt. So you could say at that stage, information was coming through into my mind, and I wasn't fully aware that it was in all likelihood a guiding influence talking to me. But I always put it down as the tarot being something for the person that you're doing the reading for them to look at, and it sort of takes the focus on their conscious mind looking at the card, and it makes their sort of subconscious mind more open, so to speak, and then the readings seem to be going better that way. So I did the tarot cards, and I was in the forces at the time I started using them, back in about 93. And I kept, I'd have a queue waiting outside me your door. It just got off a 12-hour shift, Oh, can you do this? Can you do that? I said, oh, will you give me a break? Yeah. I said, I've got to do this, Even in the forces world where people say, oh, mediumship, psychic, oh, it's rubbish, whatever. Then I used to get the same people coming again and again. It did work there. What about yourself, Martin? When did you start with your divination tarot, I believe?
It kind of started when I was younger, because not only did my mother used to do playing card readings, but also my grandmother used to do them as well. I used to wonder what they were doing with these playing cards at a very early age. She said, oh, I'm predicting the future. And I was like, ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the lottery numbers now. And so it started it from there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where they were very, very cagey about how to read what cards meant what. And they told me a little bit of what it was. And so, like, the Ace of Spades was always portrayed as the death card, or it was very similar to that. Now I've got older, I've realised that there's a lot of linkage with the playing card readings that tie in with a lot of the tarot readings.
Yeah.
So there is a stream there, or connection there between them both. But then when I started doing playing card readings at school, or whenever we went on a school trip, I'd be sat at the back of the coach doing these readings, three card readings. But it's interesting, and you made a really interesting comment in what you said there. Even when I was doing the playing card readings, it was my interpretation of what I saw in front of me.
Yeah.
And essentially, as we teach in our mediumship courses, these are tools, physical tools, to enable the brain to kind of get into gear and a bit more focus. So when I put down 3 cards, whether it was tarot or whether it was playing cards or whether it was some, let's say, staves from Ogham's script or anything like that, when I put any of these things down, I'm piggybacking on the back of this and possibly using my psychic ability to do this. And as you said in your point, is you started off with tarot, and you didn't sit there reading every single explanation for what does the 2 of Cups mean, what does the 3 of, I mean there's God knows how many designs now, but you go through and everybody's got a slightly different explanation. But I always say to everybody, you can either be 2 things with tarot or any form of divination. You can either be the purist, who this is exactly what it means, it doesn't mean anything else, or you can actually interpret what you are visualizing. And often I will put one card down, a tarot card, and I will look at that card and I will know that what that meaning is of that tarot card is not necessarily the right one for this person, but there will be something in the background, there will be an image, there will be something, a tree, a new growth tree or something, and I'll say, well, I've got this card and normally it means this, but I can see here actually there's glimmers of new growth coming through. So I think psychically and as well as mediumship wise, you get driven to the interpretation. Would you say that as well?
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's a lot more free flow. I think if, like I say, the purist, and you just use the book that comes with that particular deck, then you're just holding yourself in. You're holding yourself back. You might as well be reading within a box. You know what I mean? Because you can't go beyond it.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the problem with. I'm not saying anything about, because I do know purists and that they're fine and they are very, very, very good tarot readers, and they will give me, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I certainly feel that unless you are dedicating yourself to the study of tarot, then it's very, very hard to remember sort of 78 meanings.
Well, that's it, and then you've got different.
And then reverse as well. So
exactly, if it stood next to this card, and what happens if it's with that card? What happens if it's with this card? So the permutations with 6 cards go into the 97,000s or something, I dare say.
Yeah, and also I don't do reverse as well.
I have never done them.
I've never done reverse because I've always found that there's been enough in there for me to be able to pull out as well. And again, I'm sure purists are going, oh my God, they're not doing proper tarot readings. The reason why we're talking about divination today is because, certainly from a tarot perspective, I did playing cards and then I moved on to tarot. I've moved on to all sorts of other things that I've dabbled with. Now, all of these are very visual items, and we've talked about this before. And I certainly believe that any of these tools are us leapfrogging on these so we can get a greater connection. And you also believe that it's also a good tool to get the querent, the person, the sitter, to actually be able to open up as well.
Well, it is. It helps them interact. That's why if I'm doing a reading, I turn the cards to that person rather than towards me. Because when they look at some of the pictures, particularly if they see the death card, there's a big panic. It gives them something to focus on. At the same time, they are listening to you. But it's sort of having a point of focus puts their conscious mind into an energy. Sort of, I've got to look what this is, and they are more open there. Not in a subjective way, as in you are going to sort of say you must give this, you must do that, but it does allow, I dare say, it changes the the auric field slightly, which gives the psychic ability from the medium or the psychic to sort of feel more and then get a better reading. I can always tell somebody who's got a very logical mind, they walk up to me and you can feel that logicality within their energy straight away, and I'm thinking, please don't come to sit with me. And that's what they do. And I'm thinking, no, you do feel the auric field, it fluctuates, it ebbs and weaves, and the more logical a person is, then the more sort of it's more difficult to try and get a decent reading for them, to be perfectly honest. But then again, if you wish to, because most people who've used a tarot for any sort of length of time are very, very well versed in it, so you can always fall back on that until the person relaxes, and then the information pulls up again.
And also, as well, is another issue is people can be very, very analytical, but also as well is they can have too much expectation. So
yes.
So when you deal the cards, they look at the cards and as you say, they think they might know roughly what a particular card is, and suddenly their face will drop and a wall will come up. And it's interesting that you say that with the auric field, and people always say to me, well, so are you connecting directly with that person psychically or kind of energetically? And I always say, yeah. I think tarot does that, or any form of divination. It allows you to connect together, and it's no way different than if you go to a big concert. Let's say you go to a big concert and you see a band or whatever, and everybody, that whole feeling, you're all connected as a consciousness. And it's no different than when you sit down with somebody and do a tarot reading or any form of divination. It's that connection that allows you to then be able to practice divination and at least give people an idea of what is coming. How accurate would you say that the information that you get from tarot cards, how accurate would you say it is? And what I mean by that is, sometimes we don't hit. Sometimes we'll say that this is going to happen. And this is why I always say that I think it's like a flow chart. There's various angles that if you change things, that it happens.
Yeah.
Now, did those things not happen because I told them they were going to happen, or did it happen because I was wrong? And that's always been a quandary for me as much as anything.
Yeah. Partly answering that question, I used to, when I first started, I used to get all this information. I thought myself, that can't be right, surely. So then I would sort of, have I got this right? I'd check in the meanings of the book. I thought, oh, I got that totally wrong. So I used to make notes on what the book said, start reading to the person, and I'd always explain, I've just started, so please bear that in mind. No, it's not me. So I said, all right. I took it away, and I tell her what I picked up the first time, tell her or him, and they're gobsmacked. And at times I'm thinking, where's the energy? Where am I getting this from? One of my forces friends, he come up and said, oh, can you give me a card reading? Yeah. I turned him over and said, oh, you said you're thinking of leaving the forces. How did you know that? I said, well, it was nothing to do with work. And I just thought, oh, you're thinking of leaving. How did you get that? You've only just turned it over. So there are little things there. I would say I've had I would say probably maybe an 80 to 20% in sort of accuracy with coming back with feedback and that, because feedback, particularly for anybody when you're starting on this line of work, is of input, not in feeding the ego, but in to give reassurance that what you are feeling in the way that you read is right. I think that's a big part.
Yeah, it's. There's nothing wrong with feeding the ego as long as it's accepted in a positive stance. So,
yes.
So if it does help grow the confidence, then that's a real positive. And as long as it doesn't grow the confidence, there's one medium who worked with me once. First time he'd ever done a ghost hunt, he turned up, and to be honest, he wasn't very good at all. The next time he turned up, he'd got a brand new car with personalised plates. I think it was something like SP1RT or business cards, the full works. He said, oh, yeah, I've set up a limited company. I'm going to do this professionally now. And I was kind of thinking, and all because he had got one bit of good feedback. If you can ride on the back of this confidence, then it does drive you forward. And again, and we say in the course, really, that as a medium, there's nothing worse when you're saying, can you accept this? Can you accept? No. Can you accept? No. And you're thinking, where am I then? Who am I with?
Yeah.
The thing is, as well, often with feedback, you never hear the positive stuff. You only hear the negative stuff. If you kind of keep thinking, oh, I'm getting all this negative feedback, but then you look at the grand scale of things and you think, well, hang on a minute, out of 100 readings, I got 4 complaints. Well, that means you got 96 people who were very, very happy. So
it is looking at it that way.
So divination is a great tool, and I do recommend anybody that if you're serious about pushing your psychic ability, then it's a good way of starting to open that up. And we'll talk about psychometry and things like that. But there's so many ways of divination, and it's worth finding out. And I always find, I know when I first started looking at tarot, and I talked to a good friend who mentored me for ages, and she said, "Oh, you'll go into a shop and the cards will be able to find you and all this sort of thing." And I just thought that was a bit too much fluff, to be honest. It's a question of the aesthetic. Is how does the art connect? And it's interesting. I think yours, if I remember correctly, were Egyptian.
I did have a set of those, but the cards I used to use all the time were your witches pack.
What pack? Sorry.
A witches pack.
Oh, right.
It's nothing to do with. I don't mean this to be funny, ladies. There's nothing to do with pointy hats or brooms. It was just called that, and I just linked with it. I connected with the cards. I've still got them now. I give all the rest of my cards away. I just found I could work there. The Egyptian ones where I was drawn to them because wow, they were beautiful, but I cannot use them at all.
I remember you bringing them, and they were absolutely stunning. I've used a number of packs over the years. I really don't like the Rider Waite, which is the traditional cards for everybody. They were designed about 110 years ago, based on the traditional Italian original tarot cards. But they are very, very hard in that the imagery is the magician card is the magician card. There's nothing else related to that card. Where when people bring their creativity, whether it's artistic or whether it's the actual person who's designed the cards, there's more information in there that you can pull out. And I think modern day tarot cards are actually probably the better cards than the older versions. I know that, again, the purists are going to string me up and burn me, but
but the thing is, people should go with what clicks to them. You know what I mean? One of my friends uses a nature pack where it's all to do with trees and animals in it, and she's very, very good with them. Yeah. But it's what works with her.
Yeah, I used to use one called I think it was called the Tarot of the Old Ways, which was very sort of pagan orientated, which was very, very good. But now I use one, and it's something that really, really doesn't connect with me on a personal level, and I think it's called I think it's something like the Butterfly Tarot or something like that. It really doesn't. It's kind of if I could pick a tarot pack that is completely not me, it's them. But the imagery, everything, and it works really nice with me, and it's always been very, very, very accurate. So I'm very pleased with it. So,
good.
But so what made you start to? You literally branched out and created your own oracle cards, and you'd been doing your art, and then you decided to do your oracle cards. Was it driven by spirit, or was it driven by personal?
No, definitely driven spirit. Sorry for cutting over you there, Martin. Very definitely driven spirit side, and I was, because all my artwork is very much spirit driven. I cannot draw for a toffee, honestly. And then with the cards themselves, I just thought myself, these can, I thought, it can be an oracle pack, So I got the artwork. I formatted it in the way that the publishers wanted, and I put together a little book, and it just flowed with all these meanings and different meanings. And on my Facebook, my Aura Art page on Facebook, I do a monthly card reveal on them. I just done one Wednesday, for the month of June, and it's a very, very interactive, where I have a lot of followers on it, and it's the way that I do. I put the card in front of me, and I just link up, say, come on, friends, please, and this information just poof, So I write it down. It is general. It's not for anybody definite, but there's a lot of positive feedback on it. I just marvelled at the fact, wow, I've done a set of oracle cards. I was over the moon, and I'm going to do one which is because the first oracle deck was based on pastel work. I'm going to do a second one which is oil work, which gives you a very much deeper feeling, a rich colour. It's absolutely beautiful. So that is my next venture, and hopefully I can get it started this year.
I've got a pack of your oracle cards, and they're stunning. I'll use them because I've purposely not learned them. So therefore I can deal the cards in front of me. Obviously I can look and create my own interpretations, but then whenever I do a reading for myself, I'll always go by the book rather than my own interpretation, because I'm going to pollute any ideas, because I have internal aspirations, or I have internal worries that I will change that card and change that reading. So your cards are great. I really love them, and they are such a beautiful thing to look at. I think you did a great job. Well, you and Spirit did a great job. You should do a second printing, Ian. You really should.
Well, the thing is, at the time I did them, I could only I only had the finances to do the one print, and I did promise people I wouldn't do a second and third. But like I say, I asked people about them, what would they like, and I just put a number on them. So there wasn't any words, contrast, spirit, light, don't do it. There was no words to lead anybody. So just as you said, people read them the way they do want to read them, and it just flows for them. So I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, it reminds me of... there was an artist called Ithell Colquhoun who was involved with an occultist called Kenneth Grant, who's one of the major influences on Western occultism. And she was an artist. She was also very much a modern artist, and she created a whole tarot pack. And I've got a copy of this tarot pack, and it's amazing that there's no numbers, there's nothing on there. And they were made by oil, and at night she was told by Spirit what oils to drop into the water. She left it overnight. She came back in the morning and she put a card down, and then into the oil and the paint. It stuck to the card, and that was the card for that particular.
Oh, wow.
So you have these cards. Believe me, they're very hard to read, because all you've got is yellows and reds. But I'm sure that, to be honest, they're far more than that, because I've certainly meditated on some of these cards, and there's some great experiences to be had from there. That they've kind of transcended tarot, actually. She's tried to capture the energy by using oils and spirit interference.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating experience, and that's Ithell Colquhoun tarot. If you go online, you'll see these cards, and they are absolutely amazing, absolutely beautiful.
I think what happens there, and my guy just asked to point this out, whether you're doing that type of art, you're like, it's the spirit interaction, saying this oil, that oil, and then you put it down there, and when I'm doing my pastels or my oils, there is always a sort of a psychic printing onto the paper or canvas before you use it, and then you fill. It's almost like colouring by numbers, but not seeing what the numbers are. And there's a spirit impression on it that gives it that vibe and that feeling, and easier to read from, really.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, and I come from sort of a magical background, so I totally agree. I think she was working with Spirit to produce these cards, and on face value, if I gave these cards to anybody, they would say, I can't read these, can't do these. Yeah, fascinating experiment, and I think they're definitely, they are related to the work of yourself. It's Spirit influenced oracle cards or tarot cards, but. So, this is just a quick episode. We'll finish on this. We just wanted to kind of have a chat about divination for people, not to be scared of it. They are just simple physical tools which you can use to help your psychic and mediumship ability to connect greater with spirit as well as the sitter. There's nothing to it, is there, really?
No, there isn't. It's a perception, isn't it?
Absolutely. So please let us know if you do use tarot cards. Send us photographs or put them on our Facebook page. We'll be interested to see what cards you use and what work for you and what don't. And there'll be another podcast very, very soon. We're aiming for 3 this month. This is our second. We hope you're enjoying all this content. We're enjoying making it. And thank you very much. And thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and thank you too, Martin, for all the work you do getting the podcast out there. It's much appreciated, and by myself and everybody else who listens. And some feedback, folks. Please share the blah 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 out of this podcast, please. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can share the podcast, tell your friends about it, leave us a review. that's all we ask of you for all this free content that we're providing to you.
Yeah.
So everybody, have a good day, have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.